Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Bhalabha Giri Bharadhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Bhalabha Giri Bharadhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jamunatira Vanachari. Jamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotarashata Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotarashata Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Grantara Shrimad Bhagavatam Ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Oh, glory to the assembled devotees. Oh, glory to the assembled devotees. Oh, glory to the assembled devotees. Oh, glory to Shishiguru and Shiguranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summon Bonum, Chapter 84, the Sages' Teachings at Kurukshetra, text number 30. Sri Narada Uvacha Nati Chitram Idam Vipra Vasudevo Babhutsaya Krishnam Matvar Janna Prichati Sreja Atmanaha. Sri Narada Uvacha Nati chitram idam vipra Vasudevo bubutsaya Krishnam matvarbakham janna Prichati sreya atmanaha Sri Narada Uvacha Nati chitram idam vipra Vasudevo bubutsaya Krishna matvarbhakham janna Prichati sreya atmanaha. Please chant number 30. Sri Narada Uvacha Nati chitram idam vipra Vasudevo bubutsaya Krishnam matvarbhakham jamna Prichate sreya atmanaha. Sri Narada Uvacha Nati chitram idam vipra Vasudevo bubutsaya Krishnam matvarbhakam jamna Prichati seya atmanaha. Sri Narada Uvacha Nati chitram idam vipra Vasudevo bubutsaya Krishna matvarbhakam jamna Prichati sreya atmanaha. Sri Narada Uvacha Sri Naradat said, Na, not, ati, very, chitram, wonderful, idam, this, vipraha, O brahmanas, vasudevaha, vasudeva, bubutsaya, with a desire of learning, Krishnam, Lord Krishna, matva, thinking, arbhakam, a boy, yet the fact that naha, from us, prichati, he asks sreyaha, about the highest good, atmanaha, for himself. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Sri Narada Muni said, O Brahmanas, it is not so amazing that in his eagerness to know, Vasudeva has asked us about the ultimate benefit. For he considers Krishna a mere boy. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami relates Narada's thoughts. Sri Narada understood how Vasudeva, in line with his mood of pretending to be an ordinary householder, asked the sages about karma yoga. Although he had already obtained spiritual goals even great yogis and rishis cannot achieve. But Narada was still concerned that Vasudeva may create an awkward mood by treating Lord Krishna as a mere child in the presence of all the sages. Narada and the other sages felt obliged to maintain their attitude of reverence toward Lord Krishna. So how could they ignore him and presume to answer Vasudeva themselves? To avoid this embarrassment, Narada took this opportunity to remind everyone present of Sri Krishna's absolute supremacy. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Ramapada Swami Iti Namine. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashatyade Shatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyaevacha Patitadam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, it's quite a very wonderful passage, and also for our benefit, these narrations of Srimad Bhagavatam, and also contained in the narrations of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, give us entrance to the highly sophisticated etiquette of advanced devotees, pure souls, and how everything is considered with such care and such exactitude, without any presumptions or speculations or things like that, is always with a great, profound consciousness that everything is approached. So in this case, we see the expertise of Narada Muni, who in the situation, he is responding of many levels, and I'm going to go through, in one sense, some of the analysis of our Vaishnava Acharyas of this verse that gives a little more entrance of all the subtle aspects that Narada Muni is taking this simple question and being able to not only understand all the different subtle aspects, and actually not even so, the highly how would you say, intimate spaces of devotion, is able to understand those things and being able to communicate it for the benefit not only of all those who were present in that assembly, that includes, the greatest sages in the universe, but also the most powerful personalities in the world at that moment, and in the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, whose association is something that is very rare. Now, consider this. Krishna in his Swayam Bhagavan form only comes once in a day of Brahma, and that a day of Brahma consists of 1,000 cycles of the four yugas. So it's not a rare, it's a very rare occurrence. It's not a common thing that Krishna is present in his Swayam Bhagavan, that Krishna man comes to this world and give that type of personal association to all. So it's a rare occurrence, and all these personalities, especially those great sages, they were very much understanding this and very eager to take that association. So it is explained that the main reason that they came to that gathering, that very auspicious gathering in Kurukshetra, was to take darshan, personal darshan of Krishna. And as I take personal darshan of Krishna, they clearly express their position of reverence. It is said here, the attitude of reverence towards the Lord. They recognize the Lord's position as supreme, and they submit themselves with reverence to the Lord. They're worshiping Him like that. So this was a very, very highly elevated assembly. But even with this assembly, we come to understand that there are so many different levels of in relationship to Krishna, levels of devotion, and that have to do with the intimate connection with the Lord. When it comes to these different intimate levels of devotion, is something that can be very, very bewildering. The Bhagavatam is explained that it's a scripture that is exclusively giving entrance to these higher levels of devotion. It's called Rashika Shastra, Rasika. In the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva say that this is for Rasika devotees. What is Rasika means? Those who actually are tasting the nectar of these relationships with the Lord. And I read you the verse. It's the third verse of the first canto, the first chapter. I used to know it, but now I don't remember. O expert and thoughtful, O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanates from the lips of Sri Sukadev Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. So the word that is used here is that he say muhur aho rasika bubi babuka rasika, those who are in full knowledge of the mellows of this rasa. It's rasa amrita. It's called rasa amrita sindhu, the nectar of devotion, but it's an ocean. It's an ocean of nectar. So it's a science. That science is not a simple thing to understand. Because Srila Vyasadeva also said that this knowledge of Krishna's position and the fact that we have a relationship with Krishna is something that is bewildering even to great sages. So it's not a simple thing to understand. Tene Brahma Adikavaye Muhyanti Yatsurajaha. Muhyanti Yatsurajaha. that this knowledge that was imparted to Lord Brahma from within the heart is bewildering to the munis and to the suras, the sages and the munis. That they become bewildered like when someone sees a mirage and think that there's water in fire or fire in water, like that, or earth in water, something. It becomes a mirage. So it's not a simple thing. And when here's Vasudev, an eternal associate of the Lord who is in the mood of Vatsalya, Ras, he is the father of Lord Krishna in his lila in this world. And he have that relationship. And Vasudev is very special. Devaki and Vasudev, because they have this mixed mood of reverence, of servitude, and also parental. And they oscillate between those two moods. So sometimes, it was very obvious during the appearance of Krishna Janmastami, when Krishna appears, and both Devaki and Vasudev offer praise with great honor and reverence, and Krishna has appeared in his form, four-armed form, fully decorated in front of them. But then Devaki requested, you please become a baby. And then become a baby because I'm afraid cancer will come and kill you. Now he's seeing Krishna as his son, her son. So they oscillate between these two moods, because when you recognize here's God, what is this tiny demon going to do to the God? So it doesn't make sense. These are things. So these moods in which you forget Krishna's position in these higher rasas, the rasa of parental rasa, friendship, and conjugal. You don't treat Krishna as the supreme. In the parental rasa, you treat Krishna as your dependent. In the friendship and conjugal rasa, you treat Krishna as your equal. So for the sages who always worship Krishna as a servant in awe and reverence, this thing is bewildering. How is it possible? It's very difficult to understand. So here's a situation in which Vasudev is asking them a question in which obviously he's taking the position of a regular householder, as explained here, but implies that he's asking for his family, for the wealth, how I can create this auspiciousness in his family by counteracting by applying karma kanda, basically applying karma yoga. How can I, in that level, the level of doing sacrifices for the welfare and the well-being of him and his relatives? So that means that I'm seeing Krishna as a mere child, Vasudev. And the sages just have expressed and worship Krishna in in awe and reverence. So if they have to answer this question, it will be very awkward because they will have to address the question in taking the having accepting Krishna as the child of Vasudeva. And that's not what full knowledge of the absolute would tell. Krishna is not a mere child. Krishna is the origin of all. So he's just, this is just a lila. But Krishna doesn't have a father. Krishna doesn't have a mother. From that perspective, from the perspective of the origin. A mother and a father is what give you life, what give you a body. Sometimes it is explained, we use the word incarnation, which is to enter into the flesh. But that's just, using a word to refer that, but Krishna never enters into flesh. So he is not part of this material world. So it will be a very uncomfortable situation for the sages. They know. But Narada is so expert. So he's able to address that, also understanding Vasudeva's mood. And so the sages also, it is explained, they could understand Vasudeva's mood, but they have to answer to it was going to be an awkward space. And Narada give all the solutions. So I'm gonna read some things that our acharyas highlight that give us entrance, into Narada's approach and also the different subtle aspects that are there that he's dealing with. So this is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The sages were astonished. Quote, "Oh, he is the father of the Lord, and he thinks himself fallen in the material world. If he's asking for the benefit of others, why does he give up Krishna and ask us?" The sages are, is bewildered. He's, you know, he's an eternal associate of the Lord, something that is impossible even for us to achieve. And he's already there. What is he doing? Why is he asking this thing? Why is he presenting himself like someone who is in the material world who needs to do all kinds of karma kanda stuff and all this stuff, sacrifices and things that you don't need to do these things. But so why is he asking? And why asking us? Krishna is right there. So so to answer them, Narada spoke this verse. So the sages are, the sages that were there were the top, Vyasadeva, Asita, Devala, Kardama, Vishramita, everybody that is, that appears in the scripture, Gautama, everybody was there. Everybody came to see the Lord. So this is not an ordinary assembly of sages. Many of these, the four Kumaras were there. Many of them are considered within the 12 Mahayans, the foremost authorities in the universe of religious principles. So they highly advanced devotees. Lord Krishna himself, or Arjuna, when he says to Krishna that, you are the supreme, you are the shelter, the supreme shelter, you are the supreme pure. And it's not me saying, but also it's been said by Devala, Asita, Vyasa, Narada. They all say the same thing. All of these people were there, all of these sages. That they know Krishna as the supreme. They understand perfectly. But even then, it's bewildering. It's bewildering because of Vasudev's position and the fact that they were, it's something like, imagine you have a particular um, space that has been created by the association, and then you lower things to something that is, that is a lesser space. The discussion goes into a lesser space. Like my spiritual master the other day was saying, you know, you're discussing a particular subject matter in the class, and then if you ask a question, he pointed out that Srila Prabhupada has he will emphasize that just ask questions that have to do with the class, like that. So there's a discussion, and then we may ask something else and what to speak if it's in some other level. So it doesn't fit. So why is he doing that? He's up there and he's presenting like this, and what is he asking? So, um, so Narada Muni addresses this confusion, or at least this bewilderment that the sages have to deal with in terms of, understanding someone in the level of Vasudev, someone in the level of Vasudev with Krishna present there, because that's the other thing. Krishna was present in there. And here's the someone that they see is much greater than them appears to be disregarding Krishna. After they have put Krishna and they have glorified Krishna as a supreme, here's Vasudev, his eternal associate devotee, appears to put Krishna in a lesser position. What's going on? So there is bewildered. So this is what Srila Jiva Goswami explains about this verse. It's also very fantastic. Quote, why does Krishna's father, who has obtained good fortune, desired by us, but hard to attain, ask about something other than Krishna? With Krishna present there. If we ask, how can he give up Krishna and ask someone else? Astonished, the sages were silent. Though knowing Vasudev's intentions, which was previously explained, Narada spoke. So the intention that the sages understood, oh, he must be doing this for the benefit, to teach, to establish. Yesterday we hear in the discussion, Krishna Archana was explaining that, you establish, you establish religious principles, you highlight religious principles, how to respect sages, and by placing proper questions, relevant questions. When you're in front of sages, you must ask questions. It's just part of the proper behavior. You come to places where sages are and you associate, you hear, and you inquire and you serve submissively. Though knowing Vasudev's intention, which was previously explained, Narada spoke as if intolerant of Vasudev's question. Since as Vasudev was well versed in Krishna's powers and knew the path of the highest good, unlike Narada, who was absorbed in Krishna's sweetness, asking this question was part of his human pastimes in order to spread his son's sattvika glories. So, Vasudev, his mood as a servant of Krishna was just to equally to glorify Krishna. But again, all these subtle spaces are there and they're all becoming very clear. And there's a reason why this needs to be clarified for the benefit of regular, people like most of us. So we continue here. It's going to be clear. Also, Srila Sanatana Goswami opens something very, very nicely too. Srila Jiva Goswami again. That question was very insignificant for the Lord who possesses the highest glories. Or Swayam Bhagavan reveals his pastime to hide his powers to some degree. This may, however, produce some misunderstanding. The fact it is producing some misunderstanding. And Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita, that foolish people disregard him because they don't understand. When they see him in his human-like pastimes, they consider him to be another human being, and they disregard. And therefore, they don't consider him or accept him in his supreme position. So, in fact, this thing, Krishna in his human form, is very bewildering. It's very bewildering. Even Lord Brahma became bewildered, although perfectly understanding with perfect knowledge that was revealed from within his heart, just to see Krishna in his baby form, child form, performing pastimes, so simple and so is that my Lord Narayan sitting with his friends, putting food in their mouth, each other like that? Someone is putting, their beaten kachori in Krishna's mouth. Is that my Lord Narayan? Is very confusing. I don't know. Let me see if it's in this is the fact. So I'm gonna test. Even Lord Brahma became bewildered like that, just by seeing the simplicity and the beauty of Krishna's pastime. And this is, the source of everything. Jammadyasi Jatambaya, the source of everything. The cause of the source, the maintenance, and the destruction of everything. The origin is the supreme being from whom everything emanates. As a beautiful child, just playing, like with his cowherd boyfriends and leaping like a frog and imitating a peacock and like that. So it is bewildering and can cause misunderstanding. This may, however, produce some misunderstanding. If we attend to this, people will become bewildered. Therefore, it is suitable that I show the Lord's powers on the pretext of criticizing Vasudeva. This is Narada thinking. He speaks in 4 verses. In the first 2, verses, he criticized Vasudeva for bewildering people. In the second verse, in the second two verses, he praises Krishna as the height of human goals and knowledge. Vasudeva considered Krishna to be a material son. This is criticism, but it's not the fact. It's again for the benefit of people. You should not consider Krishna as a human, as a regular, the son of some king. No, he's not. He's a supreme. It's his pastime. So this is the position of the teachers, the sadhus, like Narada Muni in Parampara. Without them, we have no clue. We have no chance to understand Krishna. No chance. Imagine how, here's God. You tell anyone outside there, yeah, God is a beautiful cowherd boy, blue, and he likes to play flute, and he loves cows. It's like, what? Why blue and why flute and like that. So it's very difficult to understand. It's very difficult. Without the acharyas, we have no chance. And so Narada Muni is taking the position of acharya and making sure that these pastimes are properly understood. And he establishing that. So it's quite wonderful. Vasudeva considered Krishna to be a material son and asked about another means to obtain the highest goal. Giving up Krishna, who is beside him, Vasudeva asked us. So this understanding has to be there. And then there is Srila Sanatana Goswami, who opens another, takes it from another perspective that is very important. The sages were astonished because Vasudeva, in the presence of the Supreme Lord, forgetting the Lord's powers because of great affection. So this is an important thing. So now we enter into Vasudeva's rasa with Krishna. It's not that he forgets out of ignorance, but forget out of prema. So it's a very important distinction. We forget about Krishna because of ignorance. These devotees forget about Krishna because of prema, because of their deep affection for the Lord. So he asked a question from that perspective, from the perspective of prema. Knowing the greatness of bhakti, Narada speaks to them with affection. This is not even surprising. Chiksuka has a version with na atichitram. This is part of the verse. Vasudeva thinks that Krishna, though the Supreme Lord, is a boy out of affection. So also explain that Narada also is doing all this, is approaching all this from the perspective of prema too, of love, of affection. So although we may hear that he may be criticizing Vasudeva, what is this? Why is he treating Krishna like an ordinary boy? So he is explained. But he's doing that also it's not a criticism from what Krishnarchana mentioned yesterday, out of envy or contempt or disrespect, but it's out of affection too. So it takes one to understand another one. Sometimes we have that said, it takes one to understand, another one like that. So these are Rasika devotees. These are Rasika devotees that can appreciate, these deep relationships. And I want to finish too by also Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Sanatana Goswami commenting on Lord Brahma's prayers to Lord Krishna to understand that, from the perspective of these great personalities, demigods and sages, how they see these intimate associates of the Lord that are in this higher um, uh, relationship, intimate relationship with the Lord. And the fact is that personalities like Brahma and personalities of these great sages, they're not looking, they have so much reverence from Lord Krishna's lotus feet. And it's a theme that was, a very strong theme in the prayers of all of these and the teachings of these sages in Kurukshetra about the Lord's lotus feet. But the fact is that these devotees, they're part of the lotus feet of the Lord. They're situated there. And therefore, what these sages and Lord Brahma prayers is not to become one of the gopis, of the gopas, but to become some type of entity that is able to receive the dust from the feet of the devotees, because that will guarantee receiving the mercy of the Lord. So it's a very beautiful um, explanation that is given by Lord Brahma, by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the prayers of Lord Brahma. That when he prays, this is after Lord Brahma makes the mistake of trying to test Krishna to see what is the extent of his powers, and then he offers the beautiful prayers in chapter 14 of the 10th canto, and within these prayers, he doesn't pray, although he could pray to the Lord for the benediction to enter in Vrindavan. He doesn't have that presumption. He remains very humble, and he simply prays for, the dust of the devotees. So here's Lord Brahma's prayers. Lord Brahma speak to Lord Krishna. This is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. However, it is not proper for persons like myself to request the position of your greatest devotees, who loved you in the pure Vatsalya rasa and other exalted rasas. That position is very difficult to attain. My words here are meant only to glorify it. So he doesn't have the presumption even to request to enter into that space, but he just satisfied to appreciate and glorify those great devotees. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti also explained how Lord Brahma deems it not proper to request the position of great devotees of Gokula in exalted rasas such as Vaishali, etc. So, Lord Brahma, text number 34 of the 14th chapter. My greatest possible good fortune will be to take any birth, whatever, in this forest of Gokula, and have my head bathed by the dust falling from the lotus feet of any of its residents. Their entire life and soul is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Mukunda, the dust of whose lotus feet is still being searched for in the Vedic mantras. So, Lord Brahma's prayer is to become just like the same prayer of Uddhava, to become just a simple blade of grass that received the dust of any of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, including the animals, including the cows and the, like that. So, Srila Sanatana Goswami goes further. And this is how Krishna will respond to this prayer of Lord Brahma. You pray to obtain any sort of birth where you will be touched by the dust from the feet of Gokula's resident. Why did you not ask for a birth as a Gopa or one of the other devotees there? You could. Why you ask to be a blade of grass? Why not being, a Gopa and have that loving association with me? Nice question. Srila Sanatana Goswami described further, quote, O Lord, personified Vedas are the most senior and venerable persons. They are my teachers, so this is Lord Brahma. If they find it difficult to obtain the dust of your feet, then it is not proper for me to pray as you suggest. How can I pray to become a Gopa or other Gokula residents who have all conquered your lotus feet by the greatness of their love? So Lord Brahma declined to pray like that, to become a cowherd boy or any of the residents of Vrindavan. He declined because he could understand, he can appreciate, and he understand his position with humility, and that the entrance to that position of being in an intimate relationship with Krishna is through those who have an intimate relationship with Krishna. And that's a principle of Krishna consciousness. We don't pray to be directly a Krishna servant. We pray to be the servant of the servant of the servant of, the gopis and the gopas of Vrindavan. So it is something that these great devotees can understand, and especially Srila Narada Muni is making sure that this proper understanding is there. Both that we don't become bewildered by disregarding Krishna, or we don't become bewildered by becoming a sahaya to taking a position of Krishna's associate, or I can also treat Krishna as my son, like that. No, we don't pray for that. Krishna, the idea is you take shelter of those devotees who are in that position and take the dust from the lotus feet. So, with not a great deal of time for preparation, I'm going to stop here. Any thoughts, comments, questions? Yes, Dek Prabhu. Just wait for the microphone.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for the marvelous class. It was really thought-provoking and has actually provoked a lot of questions for me. So I just pray for, I ask for your grace while I ask these questions because I was feeling actually a little bit of resistance in me, a little bit of, because I guess I had always thought that we are personalists, you know, and so to have a unique relationship with Krishna, I I had always um, thought it was okay to view Krishna, because I've also been taught to never view Krishna as your father. We don't approach him as a father because uh, we're not seeking to get things from him. But in the Christian tradition, which I grew up, he's very much the father.
Mm.
And I really relate to God as a father, not as wanting to receive from him, but I'm inspired by wanting to be a good son to the Father. And so I'm inspired by wanting to please my father by being a good son and acting good, not because I need, almost like an adult to my father, like an adult son. And then on the same token, sometimes I like to imagine having to care for Krishna as as a son, like he is my son. But then on the same token, I also bow to Srila Prabhupada and I pray to serve his devotees really nice, like to be a servant of those who serve him. So I had never felt any contradiction in these two ways, in
Right.
these two things, because it was like serving me to I want to show up for the Lord, like provide. Even though I know He's the ultimate provider, I don't, I want to show up for Him in that way, like that, you know, act as if everything relies on me, but pray like everything relies on
Yeah.
God. So, yeah, so I'm having a little bit of tension between these two moods, which previously I never had, but now I'm feeling like, is it okay to view? And then how do I approach? I'm so sorry, but this is everything. So I was when I first came to Krishna consciousness, I had no attraction to Krishna. Actually, I had a lot of attraction to Lord Ram and Hanuman. And I was like, man, if there were Ram Bhaktas around, I would just go there. But then I was reading from our acharyas that actually Hanuman's mood is of awe and reverence. That there's we can only go so far with that mood. So to try to have Krishna as as personalist, I don't know, it opened up a new avenue for me. And now I started to have attraction for Krishna when when especially as we just came out of Damodarastakam, and we're meditating on Krishna as a little boy, and I'm thinking, I want to show up for this little boy. I want to show up and do everything I can. So thank you. These are all my thoughts. Thank you for allowing me to read.
It's very nice. Actually, they're very good sentiments and they're devotional sentiments, so they have to be protected and they have to be fanned and encouraged. And they, they're not contradicting, but because you're right, we all have an eternal relationship with Krishna. And it's a very intimate relationship. I always picture, you probably seen this painting of Krishna receiving us back, receiving the soul back into the spiritual world with the say, I was missing you so much, where you were, that type of thing. And this tight embrace between the soul and Krishna. It's in the story of Gopakumar in the Brihad Bhagavatam, that the soul going back home, back to Godhead, And finally, when it reaches there, the reunion is quite touching, you know. So we all have that. We all have that. You know, we don't. Um, is beyond my understanding how the whole thing works out. So I cannot tell you much about it because I also hear things, but I have questions about it. You know, in terms of the opportunity that we're receiving by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, because for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, our destination is Goloka Vrindavan. And the other Vaishnavas who are worshiping the Supreme Lord in pure devotion, where the destination is the Vaikunthas with Lord Narayan. But our destination is the highest space, because by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, we're following in the footsteps of the gopis of Vrindavans. Gopi Bhartur Kama Padalayor Dasa Dasa Anudas. We're following the Dasa Dasa Anudas of the gopis of Vrindavan. So, um, so it's out there. It's really very difficult to understand. So, um, so if I my eternal relationship with Krishna is eternal, so was I there? I don't know. So that part I don't know because it doesn't. It's beyond me, you know, beyond my. So so then my position and the majority of us, you know, we are on the level that to have entrance to that potential, onto that space, I have to follow the principles um, of sadhana bhakti. So our level is Vaidhi Bhakti or Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, which is, you know, the principles of worshiping the Lord in awe and reverence. Because first we have to understand Krishna's position. And through understanding that, then by the hands or by the guidance of those who are there, Rasika devotees, then we're able to, you know, start to move ourselves or free ourselves from all the things until we also can be entering into the position of Rasika, which is, you know, now our devotional service goes from being regulated with rules to be spontaneous. So we're meant to grow towards that. But one of the things that are highlighted in our line by our acharyas, especially by Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, is that we don't necessarily jump into this Raganuga Bhakti without being properly established in the position of Vaidhi Bhakti, of rules and regulation. Just like Lord Brahma didn't pray to be in that Rasika space, but he prayed to be, you know, just in the position of receiving the dose of the devotees who are there. This is the teachings for us, and that's how we get there. That's how the whole thing reveals for us. We worship the lotus feet of the spiritual master because through the spiritual master and the dose of the lotus feet of the spiritual master, we receive the lotus feet of the Lord. So when we pray to Srila Prabhupada, Namo Vishnu Padaya, because he is there at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. That's why, and then, you know, those who are representative Srila Prabhupada, that are spiritual masters, they also receive that prayer, Namo Vishnu Padaya. And so that's our path to reach there. And all these emotions and feelings that are there, that are being reawakened by Krishna's grace, by the association of devotees, and by Krishna's grace, these feelings of affection, of attachments, of desire to serve the Lord, those are reawakened, and they become, you know, they become they become free. They become, how you say, you start to separate the unwanted things that doesn't allow it to fully be there all the time. I finish with this because it was a nice thought, and you're sharing, because we all go through that too. There was one time that I have an experience during Harinam, in which there was a moment that I experienced something that I never experienced before doing music, and was a moment of a happiness. Everything became blank, and I felt this extreme satisfaction, fulfillment, and happiness. But it was just a second, because the moment I became aware, poof, it went off. So I told my spiritual master, I had this experience. And he say, well, Krishna is giving you a taste of what is the happiness of the soul. Imagine that moment of full happiness and satisfaction 24/7. That's the life of the devotee, the pure devotee. So, so we have all that. That's there. It's already there in us. But the idea is to bring that, to purify it in such a way that it's just that 24/7, all the time. You're in that position. Just one more question. Two more questions. You have.
One thing that struck me in the insight Narada was having of the possible discomfort that might be created by Vasudev's question to the sages in the presence of Krishna, was the strange thing is that Krishna is not a child anymore at this particular moment. He's arrived there with his queens.
Yeah. It's true.
So uh, it's Narada almost assuming that Vasudev is seeing Krishna still as a boy.
Well, that's say that for parents, it doesn't matter. Your kid is always your kid. And Krishna was, you know, when he got married, he was 16, I think, something like that. So he still, have a young body. Uh, so obviously, it's not an ordinary young prince or king, like that. I mean, powerful Krishna. So, yeah, but it's quite something. Yeah, nice observation. Yeah. Vaishnava Prabhu, you have any question? We still have a tiny.
It's like it's just sharing where for me I felt like I found two great gems. that help me a lot, you know. And I feel like if I don't share, it's like when we saw the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark and they tried to get out with all these jewels and stuff. But this is two jewels that help me a lot, and you know, they might help some. One is when in the Srinamamrita, um, Srila Prabhupada gave the definition of the word Krishna, and he went into the deep, the etymology of the word, the deep meaning of the word. And he said Krishna is Krishna is the whole of existence, and he made it made it simplified for me in my mind to think, okay, I've heard Krishna is the all attractive, which didn't really catch my. I didn't get it. Well, how can people not be attracted if he's the all attractive? But when I heard Prabhupada say that Krishna is the whole of existence, then it kind of made sense that this whole of existence enters into itself, remaining the whole, and that the pastime with Mother Yasota, where she checks his mouth with dirt, and she sees all the universes and Earth and our universe and inside the mouth of the existence itself. So it makes it a little easier for me to understand and think. Every time I hear Krishna, I hear the word existence. Krishna and the Kalhariva, existence and the Kalhariva is the whole of existence. So it just makes it a little easier. And then, like for like what Anjali was speaking about yesterday about um, thirst, hunger, and desire for honor, um, how that comes into play. It seems like, at least for myself, one of the things that I feel like is a safe zone is, like you were saying, that in Bhagavatam 118, there's a verse. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that the secret of success in Krishna consciousness is in satisfying the spiritual master, thereby getting his sincere blessings. So, in my own mind, when I think of that, okay, we're dealing with existence itself, has entered into this tiny, tiny little short and then the secret of success in all of it is in pleasing the spiritual master. I mean, personally, it shrinks all the way down to my life and soul is just to serve the Lord's feet with my spiritual master. If I get a glimpse of all these things, fine. But if I can just please my spiritual master, even if I'm just washing pots or sweeping the floor or something, then I can rest assured that He will take care of the success. I don't have to worry about it so much.
Well said. Jai. Thank you, everybody. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai.